Um, this is the Corniche in Beirut. It's the waterfront in Beirut. And many years ago, I was sitting there having coffee with my friend. And we were talking about how we, as young Arabs, don't have any heroes. And the reason being, I think, was because most of the stories that we were telling about ourselves and about the places we come from were pretty much the stories that we're telling in media, in film, in literature, in music. All of these stories were pretty much stuck in the past. There were stories about defeat, about traumas, about war and disappointment. And one thing we realized was that in order to move to a better future, we need to start by telling better stories. And then the Arab Spring happened, and suddenly we would start hearing stories about women fighting harassment in Egypt and Palestine, Lebanon, and elsewhere. We started hearing stories about sexual liberation and gender identity exploding in amazing ways. We started hearing stories about knowledge being created by people who have been silenced and jailed for years and years. We started hearing stories about alternative political spaces that were being created on a daily basis in oppressive and dictatorial states. And that was really inspiring in a sense that if we didn't have any heroes in the classical sense, we were our own heroes in some sense. We were the heroes of our own stories. And this was the background, if you will, upon which we launched the Outpost 5 years ago as a magazine of possibilities in an attempt to capture all those energies and social transformations that were happening in the Arab world. I'm not going to dwell so much about what happened in the 5 years that we've launched, like what kind of stories we published, because maybe we can discuss them during the panel, but I want to talk a bit about the impact. When we first started, we had this idea, like as I said, if we start telling better stories about ourselves, can we actually get to a better future? And we were a bunch of kids with this idea in mind, with no any experience, prior experience in media and publishing. So we put out our first issue, which we intentionally numbered issue 0 because, like in a way, we didn't know what we were doing. And we put it out, and the response was massive. We got really good feedback that encouraged us to launch another issue, and then from there, it went on to another one. And then something started to happen. Media started picking us up. International media started picking us up. The Guardian likened us to The Economist, which, yeah, don't ask. And, but importantly, we started getting messages from readers telling us about the stories we're publishing and about how the magazine is inspiring them in different ways. Like this girl, Shireen, from Egypt, who emailed us saying that our story inspired her to start her own literary publication in Cairo. And just a couple of months ago, after we launched our body issue, I randomly met this guy, filmmaker Mahmoud, Lebanese guy living in Berlin when I was there, and he told me about how one of our stories in that issue inspired him, actually really triggered him to call the organ donation center in Beirut, and he decided to donate his organs after he dies. And at that point, like in the conversation, my hair froze because like this was a topic that was extremely taboo from a cultural point of view. And there was a guy who was really inspired because of his story in the magazine to create something that is positive. And this is the kind of impact I'm talking about. So when we talk about social impact or any kind of impact, which I think is the jargon word today, this is the impact I mean, in terms of creating stories that, that's done, that can actually open people's eyes to injustices or wrongdoings, shift their perspectives on important issues, and importantly, inspire them to take action. Tina, I'll finish in a bit. Tina Brown, the former editor of The New Yorker, used to say that if you don't have a budget, have a point of view. And I'm not going to talk about the budget part because there's a panel for that. And I think as independent media owners, we all struggle with the budget. But I want to stress on the point of view because at a time when all the political systems, the economic systems, the academic systems, all the systems that we have been born and raised to are failing, we need new point of views. And it's our roles as media owners to kind of like present new point of views for the future. And this reminds me actually of a saying that by the Lebanese philosopher and writer Etel Adnan, who once said that the Arab world is infinitely large in terms of space, but it's infinitely small in terms of vision. And I think it's our responsibility again as media, as people who tell stories, to envision what kind of future we want and to inspire our readers or our listeners or our audiences in general to join us in making this future. Thank you.